Welcome to Trashmagination, a podcast about reimagining trash. I'm Carla Brown. Today's episode is about the creative reuse of Mylar balloons. These metallic foil balloons are usually filled with helium. I recently learned 3 surprising things about Mylar balloons. So first, they are made from a mixture of metal and polyester, and since they contain metal, they conduct electricity. Electric utilities have been putting out warnings asking people to make sure that they don't lose or purposefully release Mylar balloons outside, because if they float up to a power line or a transformer, they can cause a power outage. I was so surprised when I watched some videos of Mylar balloons hitting a power line. There was a huge poof of fire and smoke, which resulted in a power outage for that area. The second surprising thing I learned about Mylar balloons is that helium is a non-renewable resource. It is captured in mines, and we know mining has tremendous environmental impact. But even more upsetting is that helium is necessary for some medical devices like MRI machines to cool down the superconducting magnets. It's also used in scientific experiments such as with particle accelerators. If we ran out of helium, we would not be able to use those critical devices. A few years ago, people were predicting a helium shortage, but in 2016, there was a huge stockpile found in Tanzania. But even if we currently have enough helium, we need to remember it will not go on forever. The third surprising fact that I learned about balloons in general, not just Mylar balloons, is that they are a leading cause of death for seabirds. A study in 2019 showed that balloons are the highest risk debris item, 32 times more likely to result in death than ingesting hard plastic. And that's because balloons squeeze into the stomach cavities of the birds, and then they open up and block them. And also, balloons look a lot like seafood to the birds. Now, some balloons are marketed as biodegradable, but this really actually takes a very, very long time, and certainly the seabirds will die long before then. Also, Mylar balloons will never break down because they contain metal. So, where does that leave us? I would say that you should never encourage your organization or your community to buy Mylar balloons, and definitely never to do balloon releases as an activity, because releasing balloons into the environment is the same as littering. Now, there are lots of ways to decorate and celebrate without balloons, such as flags, garlands, pom-poms, and bubbles. You can put ribbons on a stick, which encourages dancing. And if you want an activity to commemorate someone, a better idea is to plant native plants. And if you want to blow bubbles, I would avoid buying the individual bubble wands and containers, which create a lot of plastic waste. But you can make bubble wands from recycled materials, or you can rent a bubble machine. But avoid companies which make bubbles with helium, called bubloons, for the same reasons we already discussed about the need to conserve helium. If you have Mylar balloons already and you're wondering what you're going to do with them, then the good news is I have some crafty ideas to help you creatively reuse them. So think of a Mylar balloon as a big piece of shiny fabric or paper. And most crafts that you make with shiny fabric or paper, you could make with a Mylar balloon. And because they're so helpful in many crafts, some creative reuse centers accept them in their donations, such as the one closest to where I live, which is called Upcycle Recycle Creative Reuse Center in Alexandria, Virginia. The easiest way to reuse Mylar balloons is to use it instead of wrapping paper. It might even already say happy birthday on it. Another easy craft is to make pom-poms or party tassels, and I will link to some tutorials in the show notes. Some people make Mylar balloons into garlands. And my favorite garland design is by Kathleen Ballos from Oh Happy Day. The way she makes her garland from Mylar balloons is that she cuts the balloons into 1.5-inch strips, and then she threads a needle and she pushes the needle through the end of the strip. And then she slowly folds the strip back and forth, kind of in a looping wave, and she sews through each fold. And the final result looks like ribbon candy. On Pinterest, I saw that some people sew Mylar balloons into blankets or curtains. Now, that sounds perhaps a bit strange, but here's the rationale. For the blankets, these are similar to the reflective blankets that you might put in your emergency car kit. And for the curtains, they can act as blackout curtains. So if you have somebody in your family who is very sensitive to light, you can put it up on their windows and this will completely block out the light. If you don't want the Mylar balloon design of the curtain, you can just sew them between two pieces of fabric. Another way to creatively reuse Mylar balloons is to deter wildlife from eating your garden or damaging your home. You can cut them into strips and tie them around in your garden or in fruit trees to deter birds. According to Paul Curtis from Cornell University, some people put them on their homes to deter woodpeckers. He says it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. And by the way, if you have a problem with woodpeckers pecking your siding, something that worked really well for us was that we replaced the sections of the siding where the woodpeckers seemed to most want to peck, and we replaced them with concrete siding that has a wood grain, and that worked really well. Plus, it was less expensive than replacing the cedar siding. So lastly, let me tell you about 3 artists who creatively reuse Mylar balloons. The first is Beth Kindle, who makes bowls from fabric, plastic bags, candy wrappers, and Mylar balloons. Her business is called Recyclables, and it's located in Cincinnati, Ohio. She makes bowls by coiling materials around a cord and then sewing them in a spiral. She also incorporates trivets, like the type that are woven from straw and sometimes shaped like a flower. And those sometimes form the base of her bowls. The next artist who creatively reuses Mylar balloons is Linda Thomas, who's in the United Kingdom. I talked about her work in my episode about the creative reuse of rope, because she made a dress from ropes that she found on the beach. Well, she also made a dress from Mylar balloons that she found on the beach, which she called her 99 Dead Balloons dress. And I haven't talked about this dress yet, but another amazing dress that she made was from the covers that were removed from those cheap polystyrene surfboards that, again, she also finds on the beach. The last artist I'll mention who creatively reuses Mylar balloons is Suzanne Tick. I talked about her work in my episode, which was about my favorite TED Talks about creative reuse. And I highly recommend this episode. It is one of the most popular episodes of Trashmagination. So Suzanne picks up Mylar balloons at the beach and she weaves them into exquisite mats. She was commissioned by the Temple Emmanuel in Dallas to make a tapestry for the doors of the Ark holding the Torah scrolls. And she made that from Mylar balloons. Thank you for listening. You can see these ideas for creative reuse of Mylar balloons on my Pinterest board. Please let me know if you have creatively reused Mylar balloons by contacting me at trashmagination@gmail.com. I hope some of your New Year's resolutions relate to creative reuse and that future and past podcast episodes can help you with those resolutions. I would love to hear about that. Until next time, may you see Mylar balloons as a source of art in your life.